All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be touching on the top props on this Thursday in college football. Let's go ahead and get into it. But first, just a quick recap from the Taco Tuesday video that I put out there. Went 2 for 4. So if you guys had used these 5, I know one was the DMP. That's unfortunate, but 2 for 4 with all the tacos hitting. It was a profitable day. Hopefully, you guys were able to take advantage of that. Let's go ahead and get into this Thursday slate. And so guys, actually what I'm going to be doing is I'm kind of going to be doing it in a unique way today, is that I will kind of be going game by game-ish based off the props that are available for the college football slate that we have available. So we got Florida versus Utah. We got Minnesota versus Nebraska. And then we'll see if we have any decent edges on some of these other games that we have out there as well. And just popping it up here right now, on the 9 of 5 cheat sheet here, we can see we're not getting that too many big edges there with the props that we have going out there, right? Like just taking the no vig out of it. No big edges really on any of these props that we have out there. If we look at the discrepancies, sure, we might have some. Okay, so these aren't terrible. Porter Rooks, we can see, a decent difference there in receiving yards. You'd probably want to bet the under on Underdog or the over on PrizePicks. And so these are some decent edges there as well. But I do want to call this out as well. I have partnered up with Oddsjam in a goal to just give you guys more information to be able to make the best decisions possible that you guys want. If you guys are unfamiliar with Oddsjam, they have a plethora of tools that are available. So this is kind of their PrizePicks and Underdog one, but they have a nice one here as well. Like they have a bets boost that are available on the day. It's a nice little tab that you can go through and sort by. What I'm going to be using today is going to be this betting news analysis predictions page for college football, but there are just a bunch of tools out there like that. So we can see, looking at this slate, guys, the Georgia State Rhode Island game, don't have a spread for, don't really want to touch on that too much because of that. But we can see Kent State versus USC, we do. Okay, looking at the over and under 54.5, right? That is going to be a higher scoring game. So chances are maybe we're looking at some players fantasy score wise in that game. Let's go ahead and see the outlook of that game. All right, so looking at UCF here, looking at their quarterback, fantasy score. That might be a prop that we want to attack, just given the fact that it is going to be a higher scoring game. And then obviously, if we are doing that, we might want to be pairing him then with one of his receivers there as well. Could go with Kobe Hudson for the over there. Now, what I actually find to be a very fun prop that we are getting in this game is going to be looking at the other side of the football, the other quarterback in this game, the former Purdue quarterback here. He's only at 108.5 passing yards. Now, I'm not a college football expert at all, guys. I just want to make that clear. I'm just looking at the lines, looking at the trends, looking at the information that's out there. They're expected to lose, okay? Right? We go back to this. Some lines have it at 37.5. Another one has it set at 35.5, okay? They're dog. And so chances are he's going to be throwing the football a lot. Now, I don't know anything about playing time allocation. Okay, I want to make that clear. It's barely what you could call an educated guess, but that does seem to be a decent game stacking opportunity right there. And if it is going to be a blowout, then obviously we could go back to some of these running backs here. RJ Harvey, positive game script. You could bet the over for his fantasy score rushing there. And so this is where kind of using a tool like this can be nice, because we can see in that game, we got RJ Harvey here where, yes, it's only about a 52.4% chance for him to get the over, but I do like the fact that we are getting some sort of correlation there. Okay, positive game script. It makes sense why we'd be favoring the over there. And guys, that's really going to be it for that first game. So let's go ahead and get into the next game. I want to talk about actually this one with Florida, because I find this one to be extremely fascinating. So we can see Graham Money Mertz here is actually, we can see the under is looking like the best bet here, which is a little bit shocking to me, because looking at it for me, when I was looking at this, I was actually thinking, he'd be someone that, stepping into a new program. He was a former Wisconsin quarterback. As a big Wisconsin Badger football fan, I saw a lot of him, very much a headache. It always seemed like he was almost trying too hard to make a very good throw, if that makes sense, where, trying to throw the perfect pass too many times, where in college football, you just need to get out there to your receiver. That being said, there's been a lot of positive report coming out, okay? I kind of like the overs a little bit better, but maybe this is just a long way of saying maybe this is just one that we stay away from. And now if we go ahead and look at that game, it's not exactly going to be an extremely high-scoring game, 42.5, which, kind of a dud, I guess, for the slate in general. So that kind of echoes the point of maybe that's not going to be the game that we want to attack. Now, there are a bunch of props that are popping up for this Nebraska versus Minnesota game. So let's go and touch on that game. And so what I mean by that is, when we're going through this, we can see Sean Taylor under rushing yards is something that's popping. Daniel Jackson over receiving yards is something that's kind of popping. We can see another one, Span Ford under receiving yards. Okay, we just have a kind of a bunch of weird ones, and I kind of wish that we were getting some better correlation here. Jeff Sims for under rushing yards. And then Bailey Camp as well. All these ones are kind of, I find, very interesting in that regard. And none of these are exactly going to be over that magic 54% that we're always shooting for. a couple of these, we could round up with these two. But all in all, as it sits right now, we are kind of getting some tight lines. So we kind of have to game theory it. And that's why I'm more defaulting to some of these lines that we were getting out there. And so let's just kind of go through that game a little bit more in depth. So we got Jeff Sims, kind of looking at the fantasy score. I typically like to default to those whenever possible. So we can see with Sims, we are actually going to see the under rushing yards is probably the one to go with there. And then we also see the under passing yards is probably the one to go with. Now, it is about a 51 and 52% chance for those to hit. That being said, that adds up to us maybe wanting to bet the under fantasy score here. Now, obviously a rushing touchdown or something like that, that hurts us there when we're betting the under there. And guys, for what it's worth, like the last 5 games here, we should never be paying like too much attention to it because I feel like that's just creates some sort of weird bias with our slips. Like that's kind of the last thing we should be looking at, especially with college football. I just want to make that very clear. Like, this is from last year. Sure, it's encouraging. Like Sean Tyler, a lot of people are probably going to see this and be like, all right, I want to bet the over here. Look at his last, 5 games. He's gotten the over 4 out of his past 5 games. And this is not against a great opponent, although Matt Rule might have something to say about that and his coveted tight end. But once again, we are seeing that the under is kind of favored here for Sean Tyler. And this one is kind of one that does pique my interest a little bit just because it is somewhat expected that he's going to be in a little bit of a running back by committee in Minnesota. Now he's going to be the RB1 and then a bunch of other guys, but we can see Bryce Williams, Zach Evans, all be players in this offense as well. And it's also the first game. Like we never know exactly what to expect from these teams. Slightly tougher opponent. That's where this could be trap thoughty. Like we're seeing the under rushing yards kind of makes you want to bet the under fantasy score there as well. And then the only other fantasy score based prop that we have here is going to be Billy Kemp. And I probably should have called this out as well, guys. Here is the scoring for it. It's basically the exact same at DraftKings scoring minus the like bonuses. Okay, so point per reception. You get 6 points for a touchdown when it's throwing or rushing. So we get the sense of kind of what we want to be looking at. And so when we look at someone like Billy Kemp, now it is a very tight line here, but he is slightly favored to get over 36.5 receiving yard. And just in my head, I'm thinking, all right, if he does get the over there, that's at least 3.6 points. Let's assume he gets 3 to 4 receptions right there. He is right at that number to be over the fantasy score line. Tough to say exactly if we really want to roll with that or not, but it is an option there. I want to try to find some correlation ones, and we just haven't been able to do that minus that first. And now I do just want to try to find any other games that might potentially be standing out here. And so what I want to see is, do we have any high-scoring games on this slate that we could be attacking via PrizePicks? Because to me, that's a little bit easier to predict when we can do that. Northern Illinois, Boston College would be one, but they're not on the slate just yet. Stanford versus Hawaii, that's going to be one on Friday night that we want to check out. But yeah, in terms of like Thursday, not too much. Like if we're betting over fantasy scores, it's going to be that Kent State versus UCF game. Then the next best one is going to be the North Carolina State Connecticut game, 45.5. And so guys, I want to make it very clear as I get into my bet of the day for this slate, I am very much dipping my toes in the sand, dipping my toes in the water, okay? Like we did kind of at the start of the MLB season. Let's just ease ourselves into it. We're making educated decisions on where we have some edges here because we're not getting that many good EV-based prop. With MLB, we found out there was a huge edge with the hitting fantasy score prop pretty early on. And so once we get that, or if we figure that out, where the edges, then we'll be able to attack that. Now, I do just want to call this out. If you guys want access to those tools that you saw available, the Oddsjam, you guys can actually get 25% off if you use the promo code 925. And that's going to be the numbers 9, 2, and 5. Okay. I'll have the link in the description below. If you guys are kind of looking to, expand upon what you're already doing, it's a good option for you. That's going to be all for today's video, this college football slate. Maybe I'll come out with another one tomorrow once we get more props, potentially for the Friday slate and everything. But that's all. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.